So good morning. So today we will start with another refractive error, that is astigmatism. In last two lectures we have seen myopia and presbyopia. So in this lecture we will see another refractive error, that is astigmatism, and another physiological condition, that is presbyopia. Remember, presbyopia is not a refractive error. It is just a physiological insufficiency of accumulation. Okay, so it is a physiological change, not a refractive error. Refractive errors are myopia, hypermetropia, and astigmatism. Remember. Okay. So we will see astigmatism. So what is astigmatism? Astigmatism can be defined as a dioptric condition of eye in which the incident parallel rays of light do not come to point focus on the retina, but form a focal line due to variation in the refraction in different meridians of the eye. So remember, in myopia or in a hypermetropia, there is point focus of light. They might be in either in front of the retina or behind the retina, but what happens in astigmatism, there is not a single point of foci. There are two foci, or there might be a multiple foci. And why it occurs? Because the refractive index or the refractive surfaces are not regular. In one meridian the cornea is more curved, in another meridian it is less curved. So the effective power of that surface will be different. More curvature, more effective power. Less curvature, less power. Okay. So instead of single focal point, it forms a more two focal points in case of astigmatism. And this, depending on the position of these focal points, astigmatism can be divided into different types. Okay. So instead of single focal point, there are two focal lines separated by a distance, and this distance is called focal interval and is a measure of degree of astigmatism. Remember. So more the focal interval, more is the astigmatism. Okay, more is the difference in the uh, uh, refractive power of that two meridian. Remember. So before going to the types of astigmatism and clinical features of astigmatism, we will see what is Sturm's conide. So Sturm's conide is a toric surface. So what is toric surface? Toric surface is a surface in which there are two meridians. Okay, that is vertical meridian and horizontal meridian. These two meridians are called principal meridian. And in case of toric surface, one principal meridian is more curved than the second principal meridian. Okay, so refractive power is different in these two meridian. Okay, so one meridian is more curved than the other meridian. Okay, and if we draw a diagram of this refraction through, or the passage of light through these toric surfaces, and that configuration that occurs is called a Sturm's conide. So configuration of rays refracted through a toric surface or astigmatic surface is called Sturm's conide. Remember. Huh? And the principal meridian with minimum curvature and therefore minimum power is called base curve of the toric planes. Remember. So base curve of the any toric or astigmatic surface is the surface or the meridia with minimum curvature or the minimum power is called base curve of the particular toric lens. Okay, so we will see so this is a diagram showing refraction through a toric surface. How the refraction occurs. Here you can see there is one vertical meridian and one is horizontal meridian. Here in this image, vertical meridian is more curved, means it is having more power. So the convergence of these vertical rays is occurring earlier than than those of horizontal rays. You can see the curvature point focusing of these vertical rays is occurring at point B, while the point focusing of these horizontal rays is occurring at point F. So you can see here, you can see there are two focal points. One is at B point and one is at F. Okay, and the interval between this F and B and F is called focal interval. Okay, so if you take a cross section at the different levels, you can find different types of shapes of that particular cross section. We will see one by one. Okay. If we take a cross section at a point A, you can see at point A the vertical rays are converging more than the horizontal rays. And if you take a cross section at this level, you can obtain the shape of that part will be horizontally oval. Okay. At point B, what happens? The vertical rays have come to point focus. Vertical rays have come to point focus, while the horizontal rays are still converging. And so it forms a horizontal line. Okay. At point C, you can see the vertical rays now after point focusing, these vertical rays are now diverging. Okay. And that divergence, but their divergence is less than the convergence of vertical horizontal rays. So horizontal oval shape you can obtain here at cross section. Okay. At point D, you can see divergence here. Vertical rays now they are diverging. Remember, and the horizontal rays they are still converging. So at point D, what happens? Divergence of vertical rays is exactly equal to the convergence of horizontal rays. So here the section is circular, and this is called a circle of least diffusion. Remember, okay. So advantage or the significance of this circle of least diffusion is whenever we give a refraction to a patient, uh, our motto should be a point focusing point, that vertical meridian and horizontal meridian should point focus on the retina. But sometimes in case of irregular refraction it is not possible. In that case our goal is to uh, our goal is to focus, or the circle of least diffusion should fall on the retina. So there will be less divergence or the convergence of rays, and the image often will be more clear. Okay, that is the significance of circle of least diffusion. Okay, at point U, you can see the divergence of the vertical rays here is more. Okay, horizontal than the convergence of horizontal rays. So the section here is vertically oval. Okay. At point F, what happens? Now here the horizontal rays have come to point focus, while the vertical rays are diverging. And if you take a cross section at this level, it will be a single vertical line. Okay. Beyond F. Beyond F, what happens? Now these horizontal rays they are diverging. Again, after focusing at a point F, these horizontal rays will again they will diverge. So if you take a section beyond F at any point, the shape obtained will be always vertically oval. Remember. Okay. As I have told you earlier, there are two focal points here now. One is B and another is F. And interval between this B and F is called focal interval of Sturm. Okay, so this is very important questions as exam point of view. You have to draw a diagram for each of this, and you have to explain the shape of that particular section oh, at each level. Okay. So now we will move to astigmatism. We will see first etiology of astigmatism. So corneal astigmatism can be congenital or it can be acquired astigmatism. Congenital astigmatism is usually in every individual some amount of astigmatism is very common. It is invariable. Okay, and most commonly in case of this physiological or congenital astigmatism, the vertical curve is more than the horizontal curve by around zero point 0.5 diopter. And this is called direct astigmatism or the physiological astigmatism. All of us have some amount of astigmatism, and the peculiarity of this astigmatism or the physiological astigmatism is that vertical curve, the vertical meridian is more curved than the horizontal meridian. So the power of our cornea is more in the vertical meridian than the horizontal meridian. Okay. Another type is acquired astigmatism. So acquired astigmatism may be due to trauma. Okay, uh, like any trauma, abrasion, ulcer, or due to surgeries. Okay, pressure of the swelling on the lid. Here you can see a image. This is a chalazion. Because of this heavy mass, it indents on the cornea, and because of this, there occurs a astigmatism. In right side, you can see another figure. This is pterygium. So what is pterygium? It is a degenerative condition of the conjunctiva, which grows as a proliferative mass over the cornea. And what it causes? It causes a stretching of the horizontal meridian. It will cause a flattening of the horizontal meridian. So again, it will cause a astigmatism with the rule astigmatism. Remember. So in case of pterygium, or again here horizontal meridian is more flatter, vertical meridian is more curved. Okay, and this is a type of with the rule astigmatism. Okay, so pterygium can cause astigmatism. Pressure up swelling on the lid in the form of chalazion or the tumor may cause astigmatism. Conical cornea or the keratoconus. Okay, it can again cause a very great amount of astigmatism. Corneal inflammation, ulceration, scar. So all these conditions are responsible for the acquired astigmatism. Here you can see upper photo. This is, you can see a conical shape of cornea. This is keratoconus. Then now here in this picture, patient is looking downwards and you can see a indentation of lower lid. This is called Munson sign. Okay, remember. In below picture, you can see a central scarring of the cornea. It may be due to ulceration. So all these conditions are responsible for the acquired type of astigmatism. Okay. So all these are due to cornea. So astigmatism can be again due to a changes in the lens. Lens. Okay. So what are types? And so all these conditions are called lenticular astigmatism. So lenticular astigmatism can be due to lenticonus. What happens in lenticonus? There is anterior protrusion of the anterior surface of the lens or the anterior most part of the lens. You can see in the picture. This is okay, anterior protrusion of the anterior capsule of the lens. Okay, so this is lenticonus. Another types of lenticular astigmatism can be due to oblique placement of the lens, traumatic subluxation of the lens, decentration of the IOL, and index astigmatism. So all these conditions may cause lenticular astigmatism. So oblique displacement, placement of the lens, or the subluxation of the lens are they commonly seen in Marfan syndrome. Okay, homocystinuria, Weil-Marchesani syndrome. In all these conditions, there is tendency of subluxation of the lens. So subluxation of the natural lens also causes astigmatism. Okay. So here you can see in upper picture there is downward displacement of the natural lens. Okay. So this is one of the cause for the astigmatism. In below picture you can see that is IOL, and IOL is not at the center. It is decentered and it is sinking downwards. Okay, so another cause for the lenticular type of astigmatism. Okay, so there are next we will see a type of astigmatism. So astigmatism is divided into regular astigmatism and irregular astigmatism. Okay, so remember, when astigmatism is called regular astigmatism, when the two principal meridians they are right angle to each other. When the two principal meridians are right angle to each other, that astigmatism is called regular astigmatism. And irregular astigmatism, when the, there are irregularity in the curvature of meridian, so that there is no geometric figure is adhered to it. So here the meridians are not perpendicular to each other. They subtend an angle other than 90 degree. It is called irregular astigmatism, and usually they are not adequately corrected by spectacles. Irregular type of astigmatism. Okay, so regular astigmatism is again divided into different types. That is with the rule astigmatism, against the rule astigmatism, and oblique astigmatism. Okay, so we will see one by one. With the rule astigmatism, we will see first. Here, the two principal meridians are perpendicular to each other. Vertical meridian is at 90 degree, horizontal meridian is at 180 degree, and the peculiarity of with the rule astigmatism is that the vertical meridian is more curved than the horizontal meridian. In short, greatest refractive power is in vertical meridian. More power in vertical meridian, and that is at 90 degree. Okay, this is with the rule astigmatism. Okay. Against the rule astigmatism, yes, same. Vertical meridian is there, horizontal meridian is there. They are perpendicular to each other. But what here? Here, horizontal meridian is more curved than the vertical meridian. That is against the rule astigmatism. Remember, so the greatest refractive power is at 180 degree. Okay, it is against the rule astigmatism. What is oblique astigmatism? Here, the two principal meridians are not horizontal and vertical. Though they are right angle to each other, they are not horizontal and vertical. That is oblique astigmatism. And another is bi-oblique astigmatism. That is, two principal meridians are not at right angle to each other, but they are crossed obliquely. They are crossed obliquely. There is no 90-degree angle between them. This is called bi-oblique astigmatism. Okay. So regular astigmatism can be further classified into simple astigmatism, compound astigmatism, and mixed astigmatism. We will see what is simple astigmatism. So, simple astigmatism, what happens? One of the I have told you earlier. There are two focal points. What happens in simple meridian? One of the foci fall upon the retina, or the light sensitive part of the retina, while the other falls in front or behind the retina. Okay, you can see in figure. In one meridian, it is point focusing on the retina. In other meridian, light rays are focused in front of the retina. So this is simple myopic astigmatism. Similarly, here you can see in one meridian there is point focusing on the retina. In other meridian, the light rays are converged behind the retina. So this is simple hypermetropic astigmatism. Okay, it is compound astigmatism. Here, neither of the foci fall upon the retina, but both are placed in front of or behind the retina. Okay, so none of the foci is falling upon the retina. Okay, so compound myopic astigmatism, both the foci are in front of the retina, but there is no point focusing. There is no single point. Remember, there are 2 points, two focal points. Both the focal points are in front of the retina. That is compound myopic astigmatism. And if both the focal points are behind the retina, it is called compound hypermetropic astigmatism. Simple. Next is mixed astigmatism. In mixed astigmatism, what happens? In one meridia, light rays are focused in front of the retina. In other meridia, there is light rays are focused behind the retina. Okay, so it is mixed astigmatism. In one meridia, the particular patient is myopic. In other meridia, particular patient is hypermetropic. This is mixed astigmatism. Okay. Next is irregular astigmatism. So here in irregular astigmatism, it is commonly seen in after scarring of the cornea. Okay, scarring of the cornea due to ulceration, trauma. Okay, and here different meridians have different power. The small degree occurs physiologically owing to minute difference in the refractive index of the lens. Okay, remember. And marked degree occurs in pathological conditions of the cornea, irregular healing of the cornea after trauma or inflammation, or conical cornea. So, irregular causes of irregular astigmatism are conical cornea like keratoconus or irregular healing after trauma or inflammation. Okay. Symptoms of astigmatism. Okay. More important symptoms are reduced visual acuity, asthenopia, and it is more common with hypermetropic astigmatism. Head tilt in case of oblique astigmatism is commonly seen in children. Half closure of the eyelids. So all these are the common symptoms. So asthenopia is the most common symptom. Remember. Okay. Test. There are different types of tests that can be done. Visual acuity testing for distant and near, autorefraction, keratometry, retinoscopy, monoocular subjective refraction. That is astigmatic fan test, Jackson cloth cylinder. So all these are the tests that is done for to find the axis of astigmatism. Okay. Management. So optical correction is the there are different ways. Again, optical correction is there. Then different types of surgeries are available. So optical correction in the form of spectacles or contact lenses. Appropriate cylindrical lenses are prescribed. Okay, or contact lens in the form of toric soft contact lenses or toric rigid gas permeable lenses can be prescribed. Okay, there are certain guidelines that are given for the optical correction. Okay, small astigmatism 0.5 diopter or less should be treated only if there is visual deterioration or asthenopic symptoms. Okay, so the patient is not having any complaint, it should not be treated or should not be given a prescription. Okay, the patient is having astigmatism of 0.5 diopter or less than that. High astigmatism should be fully corrected. Okay, change in the axis of the lens, patient used to previous axis should be done cautiously. Okay. New astigmatism correction in adults is not tolerated. In such cases, it is better to undercorrect and give full correction gradually. So, in case of adult, you are giving refraction for the first time, so they may not accept it fully. So, initially we undercorrect such patient, and after some days we try to give a full correction. In case of bioblique astigmatism, mixed astigmatism, and high astigmatism, are better treated not by spectacle but by contact lenses. Spherical components should be corrected. Okay, so these are certain guidelines for the optical correction. Okay, another option for this is refractive surgeries. So different types of refractive surgeries are available for this. So incisional procedures like transverse keratomy, arcuate keratomy, limbal relaxin incisions. Okay, and laser-based procedures which are available for the astigmatism are PRK, that is photorefractive keratomy, astigmatic LASIK. Okay, wavefront guided and wavefront optimized LASIK. So all these methods are available for the these are all laser-based procedure for astigmatism. Okay, and another operation thing is intraocular lens correcting. So, angle supported antechamber phakic IOLs. So, phakic IOL means there's a natural IOL, natural lens is kept as it is, and in front of that natural lens, in the angle between your iris and the anterior surface of the anterior capsule of the lens is placed. That is, these are angle supported antechamber phakic IOLs. Okay. And second is toric intraocular implants. So these are again a surgical options for astigmatism. So we have completed the astigmatism. Remember, next is presbyopia. So presbyopia in Latin it means old man's eyes or aged eyes. मराठीमध्ये आपण म्हणतो चाळीशी लागली. So that is old man's eyes. Okay, चाळीशी लागली म्हणतो. प्रत्येकालाच लागणार आहे प्रत्येकाला. Okay, so presbyopia refers to a slow, normal, naturally occurring age-related irreversible reduction in maximum accommodative amplitude. Okay, so it is age-related, irreversible, slow, and is naturally occurring. Okay, so as the age advances, amplitude of accommodation decreases, which leads to a presbyopia. So it is not a refractive error, it is just a physiological insufficiency of accommodation. Okay, so it is first reported clinically between 40 and 45 years of age, which is with its peak onset between 42 to 44 years. Its onset may occur at any time from 38 to 48 years of age, depending on variety of factors. From approximately age 52 years onwards, the prevalence of presbyopia is considered to be essentially 100%. Okay, there are certain factors responsible for the accommodation, for the decrease in the accommodation, or you can say for the presbyopia. So, in earlier lectures, I have taught you we are able to focus both distant object and near object because of the accommodation. Okay, so accommodation occurs why? So accommodation occurs. There are different types of factors for this. When we focus at a near object, what happens? There is contraction of ciliary muscle. When the ciliary muscle contracts, there is relaxation of zonules, and because of the relaxation of zonule, anterior surface of the lens and the anterior capsule of the lens, it acquires more curved shape. So curvature will increase, and because of this, total power of the eye will increase. Okay, so there are certain factors responsible for the decrease in accommodation. And accommodation occurs why? Because all this occurs because of the plasticity or the elasticity of anterior capsule and the material of the lens. So in young age, all these the anterior capsule and the lens matter, these all are plastic. They are more elastic. They mold. Okay, and as the age advances, there is sclerosis of the lens, hardening of the capsule, and as this changes occurs, this molding will decrease, and as the molding will decreases, the accommodative power decreases. So there are certain factors enumerated here. So decrease in elasticity of the lens capsule. Okay. Cannot effectively mold the underlying lens substance. Increase in the stiffness of lens substance. Okay. Increase in size or volume of the lens. Anterior shift of the equatorial zonular fibers due to increase in the size of lens. Decrease in equatorial zonular fibers. So all these are factors responsible for the accommodation. Decrease in the accommodation. Okay. Increase in number of disulfide bond in lens substance stabilizes collagen molecules within the capsule and lens by the process of cross-linking. Lens substance become more rigid and capsule becomes less elastic. So, as the age advances, the cross-linking increases. And the cross-linking will cause, it will give a rigidity to lens. Okay, and capsule also become less elastic. Mechanical and anatomical changes in the ciliary muscles are also responsible for this. Okay, decrease in the choroidal elasticity. So there are numerous causes. Okay, so what is amplitude of accommodation and age? Amplitude of accommodation can be calculated as so amplitude is equal to dioptric power needed to see clearly a near point minus dioptric power needed to see clearly at 4 point. This is the formula for to calculate the accommodative amplitude. Okay. So what is near point and far point? Near point, it is the nearest point at which object can be accurately focused. And this demands a maximum accommodation. Far point also called punctum remotum. Near point it is called punctum proximum. So punctum remotum is the farthest point at which objects can be focused on the retina, and this does not require any accommodation. Okay. As the age advances, the amplitude of accommodation decreases. At the age of 10 years, it is around 14 diopters. Okay, at the age of 40 years, it is 4 diopters. At the age of 60 years, it is just a 1 diopter. After 60 years, uh, total accommodation will be lost. Okay, the symptoms will be reduced vision at a customary near work. So what the they are not able to read, so reading will be difficult. They have to take reading material far away from their eyes. Okay. Drowsiness after short period of reading or near work, asthenopia, transient diplopia. So all these are the symptoms. The main is the blurring of the print. Huh? Okay, this is the main symptom, blurring of the near print. Okay. Treatment is the presbyopia is to provide patient with convex lenses so that his accommodation is reinforced and his near point brought within a useful working distance. Okay, so we prescribe convex lenses. Remember. Okay, optical correction can be given in the form of spectacles, single vision reading glasses can be given, multifocal lenses containing near rad. Okay. The multifocal lenses can be in the form of bifocal lenses, trifocal lenses, progressive lenses are also available. Okay. Contact lenses can be given. Contact lenses can be monovision contact lenses, bifocal and multifocal contact lenses. Modified monovision contact lenses are also available. Okay. Refractive surgeries are also available for the presbyopia. So just I will read. Conductive keratoplasty, multifocal IOL implants are there, custom or multifocal ablations, corneal inlays, scleral surgeries accommodating IOL implants. All these are the refractive surgeries for the presbyopia. This is details of all this is not expected at your level. Okay, just remember the names. Okay, so this is the end of your lecture. So we have completed total refractive errors, I think. Okay, thank you.